Yes. Okay, already paid. All. Okay, you have before 11,000.
ولا اسمع ولا عيب ولا كده.
You don't have? السلام عليكم. ازي ساعتك يا هندسة؟ مبعوث سكان يعني على الايميل؟ طيب طيب يا باشا. لا احنا لا خلاص. تسلم يا هندسة، تسلم. شكرا لك. سلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Good morning. Please, if my voice is clear for you, please write to me one. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, inshallah, we will complete our OSHA training course. Inshallah, we will finish our course tomorrow. I ask Magad, is your knowledge tech is helpful for you in order to implement this information in your workplace and in your life in general. Today we will complete about what about the hazardous materials and how can we control them. Hazardous materials, we will share our presentation. As you see with me, what is our topics today? Inshallah, we will identify types of hazardous materials and how exposure can occur. Okay, number one, we will have identify types of hazardous materials and how exposure can occur. Number two, we will identify hazards associated with hazardous materials. What is hazards associated with hazardous materials? Okay, including injuries that may occur. Number three, we will describe methods for elimination physical hazards, of hazardous materials. And number four, we will describe methods for elimination of health hazards of hazardous materials. So we will take how can we control both types of the hazards, physical hazards and health hazards related to or associated with hazardous materials. Okay. Firstly, what are the hazardous materials? Hazardous materials are the group of products, hazardous materials, group of products for which the storage, handling, and use are regulated under the hazardous material standards. They are regulated under the hazardous materials standards. Okay, primarily associated with the physical hazards and may also pose health hazards. Again, primarily associated with physical hazards and may also pose health hazards. Okay. Firstly, we should know we are studying or training for the federal regulation or CFR Code of Federal Regulation 1910, which is a general industries. Really, there are many multiple and varying definitions for the term hazardous materials can be found in a different federal or state regulation. OSHA does not define the term hazardous materials in the hazardous materials standards 29 CFR 1910 subpart H, what we are trained for, which is the general industries. But we can find this term in another federal regulations. But rather than the reference refer this general industries we trained have refer to the following products which are storage, handling, and usage are regulated under the standard. Okay. Example, compressed gases, we will take in details, but I'll give you some examples. Compressed gases, acetylene, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrous oxide, of flammable liquids. All of these are under the hazardous materials. So we will take in details, in some details, examples of work sites exposure. And please don't forget, we now we are concerning on hazardous materials in general industries. Some another it can be in constructions, okay, another in agriculture, another in maritime, okay, for which are the four big sections in the OSHA standards. So the first example we will take, number one, example of work sites exposure. Number one, operation involving storage operations which involving storage, handling, and or usage of firstly compressed gases. Compressed gases have many types of compressed gases. We have liquefied gases like anhydrous ammonia, chlorine, propane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. All of compressed gases, which are liquefied gases, like these examples, okay, there are exposed to, the exposure of them are high hazardous materials and can face hazard according to dealing with them according to or during the storage of these compressed gases, during the handling of these compressed gases, during usage, the normal usage during production for these compressed gases. Okay, number one, compressed gases. Number 1.A, liquefied gases, which are example anhydrous ammonia, chlorine, propane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. And another example is non-liquefied gases like oxygen, non-liquefied gases like oxygen, nitrogen, helium, and argon. If you are dealing with compressed gases, non-liquefied like oxygen, like nitrogen, like helium, like argon, if you can deal with any one of these compressed gases. Dissolved gases like acetylene. Any of these compressed gases are high hazardous materials, and you or the safety officer make analysis for this hazardous materials. Okay, I ask you, any one of you dealing with this compressed gases before? Any one of you dealing with this compressed gases before? No, Mr. Jimmy. No, Mr. Ron. No. Okay. I worked before. I worked before for copper metals company, which are we are manufacturing for copper rod in order to be copper wire after this. We have in lab as I am I worked before quality control. In lab, we have an equipment for oxygen determination. Okay, this equipment is working with two types of compressed gases. One of them is argon. Another one is nitrogen. So sorry, helium and nitrogen. Argon used in production for welding by argon. So I deal with this liquefied, non-liquefied gas before. Okay, so this is in the liquid nitrogen. Mr. Amjadullah, Alhamdulillah, first one dealing with this. Okay, Mr. Amjadullah. Nitrogen, liquid nitrogen in compressed gases. Mr. Amjadullah, you deal with a liquid nitrogen in a compressed gases? In cylinders, is the cylinders or in tubes? Okay, so we complete. It's complete. Okay. So these examples of work site exposure. Let's complete. Okay, number one is operations involving storage, handling, and or usage of the number one compressed gases. Okay. Compressed gases, number one. Number two is a flammable liquid. Please pay attention for this. Please pay attention for this. Flammable liquids are a four categories. In some pronunciations, categories. Okay. Some four categories. Okay. Category number one is style is here. This examples for a flammable liquid. Please, flammable liquids. Please pay attention. We have four categories. Okay, category number one ethyl ether, isobentane, propylene oxide. This is some examples of flammable liquids. Category number one. Category number two, acetone, benzene, ethyl alcohol, gasoline. Isopropyl alcohol, which is called IBA. Isopropyl is the abbreviation for isopropyl alcohol is IBA. And toluene. There are these some examples for the categories of flammable liquids. This is the flammable liquid. Category number three is turpentine, xylene, nephthane. Okay. Category number four is ethylene glycol or glycerin. Okay. Category number four. Please pay attention. Pay attention for these four categories, flammable liquids. As when we will classify the work sites, okay, according to hazardous material, you will see what types it is suitable for category flammable, category one and two, category 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so you should know there are a four category for a flammable liquid. And okay, complete. We now we will continue for examples of work sites exposure. First one, operation involving storage, handling, and usage of number one, compressed gases. Number two, flammable liquid. Number three, cryogenics and refrigerated liquids. Oxygen, nitrogen, argon, hydrogen, helium, and liquid methane, carbon monoxide. All of these are dealing with this. Okay, I think Mr. Amjadullah, you see about this nitrogen. Okay, and number four is liquefied petroleum gas, LPG. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Okay. Okay, liquefied petroleum gases like propane, propylene, and butane and butylene. Okay. Number five is explosive and blasting agents. Explosive and blasting agents. Okay. This is the operation example of work sites. Number one, operation involving storage, handling, and usage of the following examples. Okay. Number two. Please wait. I have three calls from one. Please let me send him a message. Let's complete. Okay, first one is operations. This is the work site exposure. Now, first one, operations involving storage, handling, and usage for these examples. Okay. Number two is spray finishing operation like this. If you see with me. Okay, like this: spray, finishing operation. Number 3 is dipping and coating operations. Number 4, processing of highly hazardous chemicals. Number 5. Okay, clean up and management hazardous waste operations and emergency response, like this: clean up and management of hazardous waste operation and emergency response. All of these examples is examples for work site exposure. How can you expose to the hazardous materials? Operations in storage and handling. Number 2, spray, finishing, dipping, coating, processing of highly hazardous chemical, clean up and management hazardous waste operations. Additional precautions of hazardous exposure. Some additional exposure hazards in classified location and confined spaces. Okay, we will take in details. Okay. The exposure of hazardous material, the exposure of hazardous materials. Okay, what is the routine? What is the routes of entry? How can the chemicals or hazardous materials come inside the human body? They have inhalation, ingestion, absorption, injection. Inhalation, it is the most common one. Inhalation اللي هي بالبلع معايا. Ingestion, absorption and injection. What is inhalation? Inhalation is the primary route of entry for hazardous chemicals in the work environment. Nearly all materials that are airborne can be inhaled. Remember, how can you know if you can inhale this hazardous materials? If you can smell it, you are inhaling it. تاني بالعربي، لو حضرتك عرفت تشمها يبقى انت خلاص استنشقتها، خلاص حصل الانهيليشن معايا. طيب so again remember, if you can smell it you are inhaling it. Okay, ingestion, it is a toxic materials can be swallowed and enter to the body through gastrointestinal tract in the workplace. People can unknowingly ingest harmful chemicals when they eat, drink, or smoke in a contaminated work areas. All of this, the routes for ingestion. I give you an example, but it is a very joke example. You know, we are every year in faculty. I graduated for science faculty. Okay, so the yearly or annual technical exam is for a chemical to know or identify what is this chemical material. Okay, you know there is 2 types of chemical, acidic and alkaline, to test this, and you can make according to the schedule to make more tests to identify what is this chemical. Okay. In the second year of the faculty, and me and my colleague, we are make a discussion for what is this chemical material we should identify. He said to me, I said to him, it should be AXYZ name, and he said to me, no, it can't. How can you know? I make all steps. He said to me, I test it. He takes this chemical and test it. Okay, he are maybe crazy. He tests the chemical substance. So it is one of the routes to entry. Number 3, so the routes for entry for the hazardous materials: inhalation, ingestion, absorption. through the skin is another route to entry. The skin is the largest organ of your body and common exposure site of liquid and airborne chemicals. Airborne chemicals اللي هي بالعربي اللي بيسموها كل ما هو محمول جوا، كل ما يستطيع ان يحمله في الهواء من مواد ابخره غازات او جسيمات صغيره، كل دي ممكن تدخل لك عن طريق الايه؟ الجلد او الايه؟ او الانهاليشن والاستنشاق. اوكي. Okay, absorption through the skin can occur quite rapidly if the skin is cut or arbided. لو في جرح في الجسم. Intact skin is an effective barrier to many hazardous materials. Okay, so the three routes to entry is absorption. Number 4 is injection. Injections occur when sharp object puncture the skin, allowing a chemical or infectious agent to enter for your body. For example, injection can be occurred when a contaminated object such as a rusty nail punctures your skin. It is in the general industries. Okay, so we have 4 routes: inhalation, ingestion, absorption, and injection. Okay, please, if it is clear for you until now, please write to me 1. If it is clear for you until now, please write to me no. What? What is this? Write to me 1. Mr. Angelullah, Mr. Azim, Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Vincent, Mr. Muqtada. Thank you for all. Okay. Okay. Types of physical hazards associated with hazardous materials. Okay, types of physical hazards. Now we take what is the hazardous materials. The second one, what is the types of physical hazards associated with hazardous materials, like oxidizer, corrosive materials, corrosive to metal, flammable, high pressure systems, or explosion, as we studied before for these back to ground. Okay, so physical hazards. What is physical hazard? Physical hazards mean a chemical that is classified as possessing one of the following hazards effect, which make one of the hazards effect, like explosion, flammable like gases, aerosols, liquids or solids, oxidizer like liquids, solids or gases, self-reactive, okay, and self-heating, organic peroxide, corrosive to metal. All of this is a physical hazards in the hazard of the hazardous materials. Okay, gases under pressure or in contact with water emits flammable gas. Okay, you should know the explosive and the flammable under pressure. All of these are types of the physical hazards. Okay, number 2. What is the types of health hazard associated with hazardous materials, like acute or chronic toxicity, skin corrosion or irritation, aspiration hazards, series of damage, eye damage or eye irritation, respiratory or skin sensitization, germ cell mutagenicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive toxicity, specific target organ toxicity. All of these are the types of health hazard which affect the human being. Okay, and before it is a physical hazard which affects the workplace. Okay, and maybe affect the human being. Okay, so it is the types of health hazard and the physical hazards. Okay, hazard of hazardous materials. Okay, we will take some of examples for hazards related to the hazardous materials. We will take about the compressed gases. What is the hazards related to the compressed gas, and how can it we deal with it. We will take it, inshallah. Okay. Hazards associated with compressed gases, which include gas displacement, fires, explosions, and toxic gas exposure, as well as the physical hazards associated with high pressure systems. Special storage, usage, handling precautions are necessary in order to control these hazards. Okay. The gases under the gases under pressure are the gases which gases under pressures are gases which are contained and rectable at the pressure of the 200 kPa or 29 psi, okay, or more. The minimum, which are 29 psi or more, which are liquefied or refrigerated. Okay, this is the compressed gases. All of these cylinders of the compressed gases or cryogenic liquids can be extremely hazardous if they are misused. For the compressed gases. And here the hazard related to cryogenic or refrigerated liquids. What is the hazard related to for them? They are extreme cold, extreme pressure, asphyxiation, fire, or explosions. All of these are the hazard related to the hazardous materials which are cryogenic or refrigerated liquids. What is the hazards related to the flammable liquid? What are flammable liquids? Fire or explosion. We have four categories. Do you remember? Are you remember the categories of flammable liquids? Okay, we will take this if you remember. Flammable liquids. Do you remember this flammable liquids? Category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4. Please, if you remember or pay your attention with me, please write to me clear or 1. No one write to me? No one? Mr. Amjadullah, Mr. Jimmy. Okay, so this is a flammable liquid. Okay, what is the category which depend on this? What is the criteria for this flammable liquid to classify them? Okay, the category number 1 to category number 4. Category number 1, according to the flash point less than 73.4 Fahrenheit, and the initial boiling point more less than or equal 95 Fahrenheit. Category number 2 is a flash point less than 73.4 Fahrenheit, and the initial boiling point more than 95 Fahrenheit. Okay, and category number 3 is a flash point more than or equal 73.4 Fahrenheit and less than 140 Fahrenheit degree. Number 4, flash point more than 140 Fahrenheit and less than 199.4 Fahrenheit. So these are the criteria for categorization of flammable liquids. We have category number 1, and we'll give you the example for them. Category number 2, category number 3, category number 4, according to their flash points. Okay, what is the hazards related for this hazardous material? Fire and explosion. Okay, what is the section we take for this federal regulation? Code of Federal Regulation is the 1910.1200. Okay. Okay, some number after this, the spray finishing. What is the hazards related for them? Flammable or combustible materials, health hazards. Example, isocyanate. They are powerful irritant to eyes, and gastrointestinal and respiratory tract, okay, and inflammation to skin. These examples are physical hazards or health hazards. This example of isocyanate, it is physical hazards or health hazards? This example of spray finishing, powerful irritant to eyes and gastrointestinal and respiratory tracts. These are a health hazards or physical hazard. Write to me B or H. B is health, B is physical, H is health. Mr. Abdul Maboud health, Mr. Amjadullah health, Mr. Muhammad health, Mr. Galaxy B. What's the meaning of B? B, physical. This physical or health? Mr. Redrick, health. Very good. This is health. So, and they are flammable and combustible materials. Flammable is a physical or health? Here, I ask here. Flammable is physical or health? The flammable, they are flammable. They are physical. Very good. Physical hazards. Very good. Okay. Okay. So we will go to the hazards related to liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, like liquefied petroleum gas. If we remember with us this pictogram, what is the meaning of this pictogram? This pictogram. Do you remember? Okay, please review this. Who's flammable? Very good. Okay, so the and another one. Okay, so please review it to save our time. Okay, here the signal word is a danger. Okay, it's extremely flammable gases and contain gas under pressure. May explode if heated. May cause frostbite and may form explosive mixture in air. May displace oxygen and cause rapid suffocation. Suffocation اللي هي الاختناق، انه ممكن يعمل اختناق. Okay. So these hazards related to the liquefied petroleum gases. Okay. Anhydrous ammonia. This is a pictogram. For anhydrous ammonia. Please review the pictograms. Okay. The signal word is danger. Hazards of states flammable gas. Contain gas under pressure. May explode if heated. Toxic if inhaled. Okay. Causes severe skin burns or eye damage. Corrosive to respiratory tract. I think now you can differentiate between the physical hazards and the health hazards. Okay. If you can differentiate between the health hazard and the physical hazard, write to me one. Please write to me one. If you can differentiate. If it is not clear for you, please write to me two. If it is clear, write to me one. If it is not clear, write to me two. Can you differentiate between the physical hazards and health hazards? Okay, thank you. Okay. So we will take the part 3, the classification of hazards location. Please pay attention with me. How can you classify the hazards location? How can we classify the hazards location? Okay. The hazard locations, we have 3 classes of hazards locations. Class number 1 for flammable gases or vapors. Class number 2 for combustible dust. Class number 3 ignitionable fibers or flames. So we have 3 classes. of the hazards locations. Hazards classified locations exist when manufacturing, storage, handling process provide a fuel fuel or consisting of flammable gases or flammable liquids produced vapors or combustible liquids produced vapors, combustible dust, combustible flying or fiber, or some of the combination of the three elements, flammable gases or vapors, combustible dust or ignition fiber or flyings. Okay, so these components can be mixed with enough oxygen from ambient air to form an explosive atmosphere, okay, which can be which can be explosive. Okay, the description of the hazardous location are defined by NFPA. Do you remember NFPA? National Fire Protection Association. What is this NFPA? It is found in USA. Okay. So the following description of hazardous location are defined by NFPA has been simplified to accommodate for time and stay focused on hazard recognition. Okay. So we will go to the classification of the this hazardous location. Class number one, which is a flammable gases or vapors. Class number one location are those in which flammable gases or vapors are may be present in air in quantities sufficient to produce explosive or ignitional mixture. Okay, what is the meaning of class number one location? Flammable gases or vapors are found or are present in air in a quantities, okay, sufficient to produce explosive or ignitional mixture. Okay, if it is this quantity is insufficient, so this cannot be classified under class number one. Class number one, division one. Class number one, division one. Ignitional concentrations of the flammable gases or vapor may exist under normal operating conditions. Again, here the ignitional concentration of the flammable gases may exist under the normal operating condition. If these concentrations of the flammable liquids and vapor are under the normal conditions, if it is dangerous or more dangerous or most dangerous, it is most dangerous. Okay, as it is that can make at any time can be flammable. Okay, ignitional concentration of such gases and vapor may exist frequently because of repair and maintenance operations or because of leakage. Number one, under normal operating condition. Number two, under or because the repair and maintenance operation or because of leakage. All of this class number one, division number one. Okay, breakdown number three, breakdown or operations or of equipments or processes might release ignitional concentration of the flammable gases or vapors and might also cause a failure of electric equipments. So we have in the class number one, division number one, we have three situations. Okay, the ignitional concentration may be exist under normal condition, normal operation conditions. Number two, because repair of and maintenance operation. Number three, breakdown operation or of equipments or processes. So the class number one, division number one has three situations. Okay, clear for the class number one, division number one? Clear, please. Any confusion? Please, if clear, write to me C. Mr. Anand Babu, good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nasruddin. Okay, okay, very good. Okay, thank you. So complete to class number 1, division number 2. Class number 1, division number 2. Class number 1, division number 2 location, the volatile flammable liquid, volatile liquid, flammable liquids, volatile flammable liquids or flammable gases are handled, okay, or processed or used, but hazardous liquids or vapor or gases will normally be confined with closed containers. Okay. Division number 2, the volatile flammable liquids or gases handled or used, but normally confined with a closed container. Normally closed container or closed system. Okay, from which they can escape only in the event of accidental rupture or breakdown of such container or systems, or as a result of abnormal operation of the liquids, they can be released. So the number two, class number 2, class number 1, sorry, class number 1, division number 2, volatile flammable liquid or flammable gases are used in the confined container or confined system or closed systems. Okay, how can be released? It is according to accidental rupture or breakdown for such container or such system. Okay, this is the first situation. Second situation, ignitional concentration of gases or vapor are normally prevented by a positive mechanical ventilation. So the division number 2 for class number 1, ignitional concentration of these gases or vapors are normally prevented by positive mechanical ventilation, which might become hazardous through failure of abnormal operations of these ventilating equipment. So where is the hazard in division number 2? If in case number 1, if accidental rupture for the closed systems or closed container. Number 2, if the ventilation failure through the abnormal operation for ventilating equipment. This is situation number 2. Situation number 3, it is adjacent to class number 1, division number 1 location, and to which ignitional concentration gases or vapor might occasionally be communicated unless such communication is prevented by adequate positive pressure ventilation from a source of a clean air. It is the situation related to division number 1. Okay, and we have here a control. Okay, engineering control. Okay, and the effective safeguards against ventilation failure are provided. There are 3 situations for division number 2. So we have, please pay attention with me for this classification. We have a class number 1, division number 1. We have a situation for this, and class number 1, division number 2, and we have 3 situations for this. Clear? Please, clear with me until now. The class number 1, flammable gases and vapor. Class number 1 is clear, please. Please, if it is clear, write to me 1. Please, if it is clear, write to me 1. Mr. Anandrabo, Mr. Roderick, Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Levy need to speak. Okay, you can speak, Mr. Levy. I give a mic for you. Please ask. Mr. Levy, you raise your hand. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Let's complete, inshallah. Class number 2, it is combustible dust. So the class number 1 is a flammable gases and the vapors. Class number 2 is a combustible dust. Okay, combustible dust is a workplace which have a work combustible dust. Okay, class number 2. Class number 2, a hazardous location are area which combustible dust rather than gases may present a varying hazardous concentration. Class number 2 locations are further subdivided into division number 1, division number 2. So now we will make the classification for class number 2, division number 1, division number 2. Class number division number 1. One of the following 3 situations must exist in order to for an area to be considered class number 2, division number 1. Okay, where a combustible dust is present in air under normal operation conditions. You know, a combustible dust. Okay, you know. It is maybe related to the dealing with the combustible dust found in air under normal operation conditions, such a quantity as to produce explosive or ignitional mixture. This could be on continuous, okay, or periodic basis. انا عاوز بس اقول لحضرتك على حاجه، ان من اكتر الاشياء اللي بتخلي عمل الانفجار اللي هي نقل الحبوب. لو حضرتك تعرف ان نقل القمح من الحاجات اللي فيها اخطار شديده جدا بتؤدي لانفجار، لان ده كومبوستبل داست. اوكي، عشان كده انا بقول لحضرتك دراسه السيفتي دراسه مهمه جدا معايا. كان اول مره اسمع فيها ان نقل الحبوب والغلال دي لابد العربيه تتقرب توصل ارضي، لان ده ممكن يعمل في اي لحظه انفجار شديد كمان. طيب. So firstly, combustible dust is present in the air under normal operation conditions. Such a quantity as to produce explosive or ignitional mixture. Situation number 2, where ignitional or explosive mixture could be produced if a mechanical failure or abnormal machinery operation occurs. Okay, number 1 are under ordinary condition or normal conditions. Number 2, if mechanical failure or abnormal machinery operation. Number 3, where electrically conductive dust. When electrically conductive dust in hazardous concentration are present. اللي هي بيسموها تراكم الشحنات الموجبه. These are the situations. These are 3 situations in order to classify the workplace class number 2, division number 1, combustible dust. Okay. Go to class number 2, division number 2. One of the following 2 situations must exist in order to consider this workplace to class number 2, division number 2 location. A combustible dust will not normally be in suspension in the air in quantities sufficient to produce explosive or ignitional mixture, and dust accumulation will normally be insufficient to interfere with normal operation of electric equipment or other apparatus. But combustible dust may be suspension in air as a result of infrequent malfunction of handling or processing equipment. So the suspension of dust here, according to infrequent malfunction of handling or processing equipment. This is the situation number 1. Situation number 2, resulting combustible dust accumulation according to electrical equipment may be sufficient to interfere with the safe dispatching of heat from electric equipment, or may be ignitional by abnormal operation or failure for electrical equipment. The situation number 2, which is the situation for the suspension of the combustible dust. Okay, we have 2 situations here for division number 2 location. So we have now two classes. Class number 1, flammable gases and vapor, division number 1 and division number 2. Class 2, combustible dust, division number 1, division number 2. This classification for hazardous location is for your information. And I ask you to know what is the types of the 3 classes. What is the types of for the 3 classes? But you are the safety officer, you should know there are a classification for each class. The any division for this classification have a many situations to be classified under this under this division or under this classes. So we have 3 classes: flammable gases, combustible dusts, ignitional fibers and flying, and we have for each class we have 2 divisions. Okay, class number 2 is clear. In order to go to class number 3, please, class number 2 is clear. Thanks, Mr. Muhammad Nasir Khan. Thanks, Mr. Amjadullah, Mr. Omar, Mr. Nasruddin, Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Roderick. Okay, thank you. Anand Babu. Okay, thank you, Mr. Anand Babu. Mr. Jimmy. Okay, let's go to class number 3, ignitional fibers and flyings. Class number 3, hazardous location, contain easily ignitional fibers or flying, but concentration of these fibers or flying are not suspended in the air in such quantities that would produce ignitional mixture. Class number 3 locations are further subdivided into 2 divisions. Okay, so class number 3, hazardous location, contain easily the ignitional fibers or flying. There is no need the concentration the concentration of these fibers or flying to be suspended in air. Okay, so the class number 3, division number 1, easily ignitional fibers or materials producing combustible flyings are handled or manufactured or used. This is number 1 division, class number 3, division number 1. Class number 3, division number 2, easily ignitional fibers are stored or handled or other than in the process of manufacture. Both of them, the flying or the fiber, are available in the workplace. Both of them are easily found. One of them, class division number 1, is producing combustible flying, handled or manufacturing. Division number 2, the ignitional fibers itself are stored or handled more other than the process of manufacture. So the divisions in the types of the procedure for processing it. Division class number 3 is a very easily as ignitional fibers or flying. It is one of them according to division number 1 is according to the handled and manufacturing. Class number 3 according to the storage or handled. Division number 2. So these the 3 classes of the hazards or classified locations. Okay. So what about the confined space? In order to finish the hazards or hazard material as a special case, the confined space, which is limited or restricted means for entry or exit, not designated for continuous occupancy. Okay, there are BRCS contains or has potential to contain hazardous atmospheres. What is the meaning of BRC? BRC, which is a permit required confined space. Permit required confined space or permit space, which is described space that has one or more of the following characteristics. All of these, what is related to the confined space, it will be separate in a separate lecture. We will take it in details, the confined space safety. So I will explain in the confined space lecture. Okay. The last topic for our lecture is the controlling of physical hazards. We will take it after a short rest. Inshallah, we will take 15 minutes for short rest. We will return, inshallah, 10:20. We will return 10:20. Okay. Thanks for your time. Please, if you have any question, please write to me. If you have any question, please write to me. If you haven't, please write to me one. Please, in order to summarize what we take. Okay, we study, we identify the types of hazards. We identify types of hazards material and how exposure can be occurred. We identify the hazard associated with hazardous materials, included injuries that may occur. We will take the description for elimination of physical hazards and health hazards. Okay, the topic number 3 and topic number 4, inshallah, will be in the second lecture. Thanks for your time. We will return 10:20. Thank you.